All right, everybody, welcome aboard. This is Doc Severson with ReadySetCrypto. Today's Wednesday, the 12th of April. I'm coming to you from beautiful downtown Greenville, South Carolina. It is almost 80 degrees outside. It's beautiful sunshine. Spring is here, and we have a rally in place. So let's talk about what markets are doing. I'd like to welcome everybody that is joining us for the first time, or maybe the 100th time. We've been doing this stuff now for better part of 5 years, I think it is, since the very beginning of 2018. So away we go. Love to see where you guys are coming in from. I'm going to park myself down here in the lower left-hand corner. Like to see where everybody is coming in from, and just sort of welcome people before we get started here. So getting everybody rounded up so we can get started with today's session. And first thing I want to do is, while everybody's checking in, we got Mike coming in from the Netherlands. We got Arian K. Hey, Doc. All right, good to see you. Welcome aboard. I'm going to go out to the dollar index, here, because what we're seeing is actually benefiting what we do in crypto. So this has been, the dollar index has been in free fall for quite some time, and probably is going to continue to do that, especially with some people chirping about making the yuan the global currency, things like that. Let's see who else we got on here. We have Tyler Yo-Yo. We have Arian coming in from Ireland. We have Tyler coming in from Covington, Kentucky. I missed the Hofbrau house down there. We don't have one where I live. I have to go over to Helen, Georgia to go to a Hofbrau house. So looking forward to that again here in the springtime. Welcome aboard, everybody. Check in. Let us know where you're coming in from. And pretty soon we'll be looking at your specific coin requests. So please chat in with the coin pairs that you'd like to take a look at here. We're going to be here for about the next 30 minutes, and at the bottom of the hour, we will disappear into the sunset, kind of like fade into the bushes like Homer Simpson, and we'll do that. Okay, so dollar index is in free fall, and why that's important is because if your asset, your crypto asset up here is versus the US dollar, if the US dollar is dropping, remember, when you trade a pair like this, you're basically long the crypto asset and you're short the US dollar. So if the US dollar is falling, that's going to help your pair trade. So everything that we do in here is a pair trade. Okay, so that's the US dollar. We also have, now bonds aren't exactly moving. Right now we had our CPI report coming out this morning. And core inflation is surprisingly sticky. That is part of the problem. So some of the headline numbers are actually dropping, but this is sort of a trailing number. So core inflation is kind of sticky. We've got the Fed out there scaring people. We got the Fed minutes came out this afternoon, and based on their thought on the banks, I mean, this is something that happened 3 weeks ago, but they still command a lot of movement in the market. Every risk asset will move depending on what the Fed does. And so they were thinking that we're not done with the banking crisis, which actually could be good for, as we've seen, some of the top tier crypto assets over the last few weeks or so. Since March 10th, we've seen, I mean, it hasn't doubled yet, but more than 50% gain on Bitcoin alone. So that's quite stunning. Speaking of Bitcoin, let's go take a look at what we're seeing with BTC. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put up a volume profile, and this is going back a little over a year or so. And so what I'm looking at is on the right-hand side, we see price at, or volume at price. And there was a lot of volume at this 30,000 price, as well as a lot of volume at 28,000, right? So we had tons of volume down here as we put in that big long base, and we are evacuating from that base. We are moving from the base. I know a lot of people are out there bearish. I read Twitter too, and everybody is like, oh, we're going to be down to Bitcoin 7,000. Well, this is a weekly swing higher. This is a weekly trend. So what I'm talking about here is that we've started to put in higher highs and higher lows. Now, just to be fair, just to make sure that I'm being totally objective, if I go out to the monthly chart, the monthly chart is showing that this is just another lower high, right? So this is just another lower high, could find some resistance here at 32,000. And actually, I welcome the price pulling back. I've been saying for the last few weeks that I'd actually like to see it pull back to about 25,000. That would be a great launching point. So what happens is on the next monthly pullback, so this is going to be kind of a depressing thing to go through because monthly pullbacks are like those. You can see what monthly pullbacks are like. So we rally up. Here is our 2019 rally up. We pull back to a monthly higher low, and then we explode off of there. So this is what I'd like to see us do as well too. So that's kind of the next thing that we have to go through is at some point, if we are going to rally here, we have to go through a monthly higher low. You can see this monthly higher low. That was difficult. We went up to 64,000, dropped all the way back down to 32,000 in the latter part of 21, and then boom, right? So we've got to go through one of these things, and it's going to be accompanied by more negativity than you would believe. And to me, again, 25,000 would be a great place for it to come down to, based on a lot of confluence for here. But I'm not necessarily calling for that now. Now, the thing here is at 30,000, if the price flags out, and when I say flags out, means builds up a small consolidation zone. If we build up a small consolidation zone, and then if it breaks higher from there, then we're probably leaving the station because it's getting above these important volume profile levels and it's transitioning into bull market behavior, which is more of that stair-stepping type of price action. But what we've seen lately has been every consolidation has dropped first before it's broken higher. Every consolidation drops first before it breaks higher. This is the first one that we've seen in this market since the beginning of the year where we've actually had a good consolidation break higher from here. So we'll see whether we can build on this, but for reasons that I went over, if we do end up dropping from here back into the pattern and move back to 25,000 would satisfy, and especially if it's more of a complex move like this, would satisfy that need to go back down and print the monthly higher low. Monthly higher low will give us a base that we can build on for a long, long time. Okay, so with that, that's all I got, guys. I can go through every single one of these coins in the top 30 if you want, but I'd rather go through the coins that you guys would like to go through. So please let me know what it is that you guys would like to look at. While I wait for that, hey, Nose of Capital, how you doing? While I wait for your requests, I'm going to go through some of the top 5 here. This is Ethereum. It's just kind of grinding higher. It's doing so in a very sort of slow basis. So this is a good move, actually trying to break higher, and it's more of a grind from here. Binance Coin has gotten its own FUD to go through. You know, is CZ going to get sued? Is Gensler going to go after him? Man, that dude needs a gold and silver. You want to look at gold and silver? Interesting. Okay, we can do that in a minute here. Let's see, XRP. So XRP, a lot of people follow XRP, Ripple. So this one has got a great big base, and it tops out at 55. Big horizontal base tops at 55. So what it needs to do is it needs to do a lot of work up in this area. It's moved a long way in a short period of time. It needs to work in between like 50 to 55, build up, and then that will lead to the breakout. That breakout's got to come on high volume because what you're going to find is that there's going to be a ton of overhead supply sitting up here looking to short XRP the very second that it pokes its head above 55. If it's able to do so, if it's able to break above 55 with some good velocity, get up to 60, then all those shorts are going to have to buy back their positions and cover, and that will drive it. That will cause the short squeeze. So this is an area of great doubt right above 55 as to whether or not this thing can get above there. Okay, so let's see. Now, NOSA Capital, hopefully it's all right if I just look at some of the ETFs for gold and silver, because those are the simplest ones for most people to trade. So if we look at GLD, let's look at GLD, and I'm going to go to an anchored volume-weighted average price. Now, what's happening is we're seeing a much larger pattern here than what's on the daily chart. Can you see this? I mean, this is a massive cup with handle, a massive cup with handle pattern that we're seeing here. And the depth of this goes from 100 up to 190. So if we break, let's just say it's 200, all right, just to make the math easy. So there's a 100-point depth to the cup. 100 points. So the measured move target from a break from a cup with handle pattern is the depth of the cup. So this is going to go from 200 up to 300 based on the break. And this looks, I mean, this is almost like a weekly bull flag here. This is just about ready to go. I'm going to put the RSI Laguerre on here. Look at the energy from the weekly chart. Actually, we don't care that much about the weekly chart. This is a monthly pattern, and it's almost ready to go. So the one thing I would say to you, though, the one thing I would say to you on GLD or gold is that this is one of the most difficult, vindictive charts I've ever seen in my life. I mean, seriously, this thing, when everybody sees the same thing, the opposite will occur to this. So we see a really beautiful cup with handle pattern. This handle may take longer to break out than anybody really wants to, but there it is, right? So I've traded gold like futures, and gold futures are just evil instruments. Whenever there's a setup, it usually does the exact opposite thing. I've never seen anything like it. So that's GLD. Let's look at silver. Excuse me. SLV does not have quite the same. We had this great big move back in 2010, and since then, you know, this is a monthly bull flag. This is all looking pretty good. Bull flags typically are a halfway house in the middle of a trend, so we might expect to see this breaking up to at some point near 40, and there's certainly enough energy for this to occur. If we continue to see the dollar dropping in free fall, this will probably at some point break out. I am not a fundamental gold versus silver guy. There's lots of people that make their living studying the relationship between these two. I just look at these ETFs. Okay, so that's for NOSA Capital. Video link, will Arbitrum go to $20? All right, so now I'm gonna go try to find, I am unfamiliar with your ticker symbol. So I would assume that it's ARB versus USDT. And we have very little volume on KuCoin. Let's try Binance, and Binance is it's only been out there for a month. Okay, so we had the initial pump, it's flagging out. We really can't tell anything based on a month worth of data on Arbitrum. What else would you guys like to look at? What other coin pairs would you guys like to look at? Or even stocks if it comes to that. I am just an idiot savant. All I do is look at price action. And I've been admonished for being friendly on this channel. I have been admonished. I've been chastised for being friendly and encouraging people to let everybody know where you guys are coming from. So I'm not supposed to be asking that question anymore. I'm supposed to get right to the charts. Get right to it. Quit having fun. So will Arbitrum go to $20? I have no idea, sir. I have no idea. Okay, let's keep looking through these. Hey, Mav coming in from Seattle, Washington. There is a restaurant up in Anacortes, Washington, which is way up there. And it's like one of the best breakfast places I've ever been to in my life. It's called Dad's Diner. So if you ever get to Anacortes from Seattle, go to Dad's Diner. It's probably the best breakfast I've ever had. Okay, so let's look at some of these on just pure price action. Since we're not allowed to be having fun in here. Dogecoin seems to have jumped the shark. I mean, we got the initial Twitter bump, and then it's right back again. Right back again. Okay, the Dementiphobia. Welcome aboard. Interested in IMX versus US dollar. IMX. And we'll look at this on Binance if that's all right. Okay, so we have the golden cross, the 50 over the 200. Not that that means anything, but it does show that the 200 is turning up. That's good to see. Let's go back and look at some of the former price action of this guy. Let's see where it's coming from. Okay, so the one thing I like about this is that this was making a series of lower highs and lower lows on the weekly chart, and that is reversed. We've now made a higher high. So this is part of the reversal process. So what I'd like to see is after this thing is finished moving around, I'd like to see it breaking higher from here. So that would complete it. And of course, it has to break above 1.6 to fully change the polarity to, I don't know if it's there or not, Math. That was back in the beginning of 17. So that was 6 years ago. But I mean, we came right in off the ferry, and it was right there in Anacortes. So we went over to Friday Harbor. My cousin is was one of the captains on the ferries. Okay, so back to this chart. So it looks good. So if it breaks above 1.2, there's a good shot that this will get up to 1.6 and beyond. Okay, cool. Let's see. Brandon Green. Hello. Let's see. Curve. CRV. Okay. I'm not familiar with some of these, so I don't know the ticker symbols. Wouldn't you know it? This has got almost exactly the same chart pattern as the one that we just looked at. Almost exactly the same chart pattern. With the one exception, though, is that the weekly chart is not as strong. So the weekly chart's still putting in lower highs. And so this has got to stay above the 200. This has got to stay above the 200-day moving average. And we need to see a break of about 1.1. If we see a break above 1.1 and then eventually 1.2 or 1.3 in this case, then that changes the polarity, and that I would consider to be a weekly change in polarity as well too. What other coins would you guys like to look at? We're going to be here for another few minutes. If you have anything that you guys want to take a look at, shout out. I think everybody is out there playing in the sun today. All right, let's see. I'm just going to keep on going down through the top 30 here. DAG or Constellation. All right. Let's see. DAG Constellation. Ooh. It's hurting. This is something where this cannot get above the 200-day moving average. Look at that. The green line is the 200-day moving average. So it was doing awesome. And then this is where the worm turned. And this is what I want you guys to do on your charts. Is every time you have an uptrend, what I want you to do is to draw trend lines on your uptrends. Draw trend lines on your uptrends. All right. So as long as, so if you're chasing after something, if you're holding something, as long as you stay on that uptrend, just understand that if you go underneath that uptrend, that trend line, that this is where things start to fall apart. And this is where you put in another weekly lower high. Here's another weekly lower high. You're starting to trade below the 200-day moving average. This is where you're going through the 5 phases of grief, right? Denial, disappointment, acceptance, everything like that. And it just goes on and on and on, right? And so you're just wondering when, if ever, this thing is going to get out of there. So what I'd rather you guys do is learn how to get the hell out of these things at the front end, so you're not holding on to these bags. I mean, there's some very simple filters that we can help you guys avoid pain with. Yeah, Brandon, it's not looking good. I mean, if it's able to break above this green line, the 200-day moving average, and then it's got some shot. I do see some volume coming into this. Okay, Tyler wants to look at the mighty Tron. Let's look at Tron. Tron is almost untradeable right now. Can you see this? This is like a massive, massive triangle. Look at this. It's vectoring into the apex of this triangle. Now, it's eventually going to move. It's like squeezing an orange pit. I mean, you can push that thing across the room if you push hard enough. But Tron is just, the volatility is being sucked out of this thing. The volume is coming down. So to break out of this, it's going to have to break above like 7.5 cents or so. It's going to have to break above this level and start to make some higher highs and higher lows. If we have Bitcoin and Ethereum breaking higher, it's eventually going to pull everything else up with it. I mean, we've seen this. I mean, you can see this back here in 21. It pulled this with it as well too. But this one's almost unchartable right now. Okay, next one is CFX. That sounds familiar, and we'll do that on KuCoin. Is that the right, CFX, is that the right one there? MAF. Okay, this one looks all right. I mean, it's trading above the 50-day moving average. It's in a nice consolidation. I mean, that's looking fine. That's what you're looking for. Now, this is what I'm talking about here. What I want you to do is put your trend lines on here. Do not let the price break that trend line. If it breaks that trend line, what I call rule number 3 of fractal energy trading is rising patterns break to the downside eventually. Now, it's all right to do that if it's on like a weekly chart. If it breaks the weekly chart pattern, you might have a deeper pullback on something like this, right? So you may get a deeper pullback on the weekly chart. But then once that reverses, then you can always get back on board. That's the thing, guys. You can always get back on board. The volume is starting to increase. I mean, this one actually looks pretty good. Okay, Marco wants to look at, now they're coming fast and furious now. Let's look at Matic, which is known by something else. USD. Okay, so that is that Cosmos? I cannot keep those things straight. That's Polygon. Yeah, Polygon, Cosmos, it's like the ticker symbol has no bearing on what the actual name is. Thank you. All right, so there's Polygon. And it hasn't been around for all that long because all we have is a 50-day moving average. That's on Coinbase. Let's see. Did you ask? Yeah, so that's on Coinbase. There's almost no linearity to this whatsoever. So I'm a little bit hesitant to it. It was showing some linearity for a while, before that ascending trend line broke, and now it has absolutely, there's no pattern whatsoever to this thing. When a market's in accumulation, this is what you'll see. You'll see this sort of sawtooth-like pattern like that. When a market's in accumulation, because at some point people are going to take profits, and then they're going to let it drift back down, and then at some point people that were sitting on the sidelines saying, hey, I want to get into that, and there we go again. So that's why there's got a sort of a sawtooth look to it, but we don't have anything at all for Polygon right now. Okay, so mining stocks. We're going to look at some mining stocks here. Riot Blockchain. Riot Blockchain. Okay, so this is on the weekly chart. Let's look at the daily. The daily is starting to get above. As you might imagine, this is starting to mimic Bitcoin because there's the March 10th bottom on this one. So this just trades in sympathy with Bitcoin. It's doing exactly what Bitcoin is right now. So, but it's finally got the golden cross, which is a nice thing to see. So let's see our next one here, Cypher. Cypher mining. Kind of the same thing, right? Golden cross, kind of the same thing, kind of a sloppy chart. Cheap. That's a cheap stock. Wonder if there's any options on this thing. Let me take a look here. Oh, yeah. We have options on this dude. So if you wanted to buy this one, if you wanted to own this one, what you could do is like go out to here, and on the 16, you could sell these puts down at $2, and you could get, for each contract, you pull in about $30 or $40. And so you could, I mean, it's like money laying on the ground with these things. It's called a cash secured put. That's one of the courses that we teach in ReadySetCrypto. So there's a $2, you could sell puts at $2 on this thing like forever and collect $25 per contract on it. So you could really drop your cost basis on this thing if you were interested in doing something like that. Okay, let's see. So that's right in Cypher. Polygon, so we did Polygon for Marco, Binance. STX, Stacks, there we go. That was this thing was a rock star here just a few days ago. Let's see if I can find it in my watch list. Here we are. So this thing was doing great. So we got everything. We got, there's the March 10th bottom coming in. Now, notice what's happened versus BTC. This is where we've started to see some divergence, right? So we had this thing taken off and was exactly mimicking Bitcoin. But what has Bitcoin been doing throughout March and April? It's been doing this and breaking higher. What's been happening with Stacks? It's been going lower. So here's another example of where you could, if you're still holding this one, I would be very cautious with this. Watch that trend line. You break under that trend line and then you say, see ya. What about BABA? I will not look at any Chinese stocks anymore because Chinese stocks are ADRs. They can play games with the accounting, so I don't follow anything with China anymore. China doesn't want to do crypto. China plays games with their stocks. Everything is on China's terms with that. So I almost got screwed really bad with Luckin Coffee a couple of years ago, where it turns out that they were cooking their books. They were making up imaginary numbers, and nobody could tell because the Chinese are so opaque about what they do. So I won't look at any Chinese stocks. And I would recommend that people do not trade them. So that goes for like Alibaba, that goes for Baidu, that goes for JD.com, those kind of stocks. Okay, how is USD coin doing? I don't know. I don't follow the USD coin. I mean, I follow the dollar. The dollar index has been going lower. We talked about that at the very beginning. Hey, what part of Maine are you from? We were just in Maine last August. We were, gosh, where did we go to? I'd have to think about that for a minute. We were on the coast. We did go up to Acadia National Park. That was about 2 hours north of us. So we were staying at some golf course somewhere. All right. Okay, guys. Any last requests? Any final requests? We've hit our half hour here. And do you feel crypto is still coupled with the tech and the NASDAQ? Yes, I do. It's still viewed as a risk asset, but what's happened with specifically Bitcoin is now being viewed as, and this is why I did that cover art thing. It's being viewed as a safe harbor asset now compared to banks. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? So, okay, last one is Marco wants to look at Roku stock. I haven't looked at Roku stock in a dog's age. We'll take a look here. What's happening with Roku stock? Okay, it's about to give a golden cross here, but what I would do, go out to the weekly chart. What is the weekly chart showing? The weekly chart shows pain and death right now. This thing has been in free fall ever since the pandemic, or since the end of the pandemic, I should say. So what this is this is just another weekly lower high. So until this starts to print higher highs and higher lows on the weekly chart, I would avoid this at all costs. So just because it's bounced off the bottom here, I wouldn't say it's doing much of anything right now. Make your assets prove themselves to you. Don't look for this garbage coming off the bottom, right? So that's a catch a rising knife kind of thing. This is catch a falling knife. This is catch a rising knife. Let it go ahead and start to trade higher highs and higher lows on the weekly chart. Okay? Guys, that's all I got for today. You guys have a terrific Wednesday, and I will see you hopefully next week. So mark your calendars. We do this about the same time every Wednesday, and you guys be good. Take care. Thanks for showing up. We'll see you next week. Bye.